Some people said no. That's not important. So check it out. Reminder that we created this global variable, and I put that in quotes because is it really though? No, it's inside this DOM content loaded, right? But I'm going to refer to this as global since this is our application is entirely wrapped inside this DOM content loaded. So in the notes and in the recording as what I refer to it as, like update any of your local variables. So remember, when you do that post request and you're actually sending data back to the server, what are you updating at that point? You send data to the server, what are you updating? The database, right? And you need to update the database to persist the data. And then what else do you need to update? The DOM, what the user sees, right? And then what else do you need to update? All of your local variables that you, the developer, are going to be working on. And if you remember, we ran into a slight bug because we did not update and keep in sync all of our data. Cool? So it's important that you're always keeping track of all three of those things as we mess with asynchronous code. So quick overview on that post. We grab that form. We stop that full page refresh or the submission of the form. Just happened to look like a full page refresh because the form submits to the same site we're on. If that form was going to something outside of index.html, you would see that it would actually go to that like HTML file, right? So we need to prevent the standard default submission because we will be handling it asynchronously for user experience purposes, right?
Is there any advantage to using the form or just using the boxes? Can we just make them like HTML?
The advantage to that would be the fact that we get this submit. Also, because I believe someone had an excellent blog post about like compliance, that screen readers, anyone accessibility-wise, will need to understand that there's a form on there. And inside that form, particularly to create a new Pokemon, has the following inputs. While what you're saying is absolutely correct, if I only really need the images, the inputs, then I can in fact send the fetch request. The problem is what triggers this fetch request? What would do the submit though?
One more point about this is that recall that any child of an HTML form, if it's an input or a button with a type of submit or an input with a type of submit, will cause the form to submit, which means my user can type in the input and press enter on their keyboard. If I don't make this a form, I lose that functionality and they have to click the button, which kind of sucks. And yeah, the second one is that it's terrible for screen readers for accessibility reasons.
Yeah. Right? So the submit handles both the return key, the enter, and the mouse click of submit. Cool. That was a very good question. Actually, all the questions are good. Shout out to your questions. Cool. All right. So the difference is I have to pass in specifically what method it is versus like the get. I have to specify if it's a post, put, patch, or delete. I need to know what I'm sending to the server, and ultimately, if I'm getting something back, what data structure I should be returning, right? Like, what am I going to accept on the front end from the server? The body, as we have bumbled through earlier, right, will need to be stringified JSON so that we can send it properly on the back end so that when the back end gets that buy bug and you see the params, it looks like this, because this is what the backend is expecting, right? Here is just the values, and we're putting in the values for the backend. Cool? All we're doing is, after we send the request, we want to make sure that we're accepting the JSON and parsing it, and then we will execute. In here, the fetch, the post, this body will update the database, and then we have the option of either pessimistic or optimistically rendering. Here we chose to pessimistically render, and so it's going to be inside the fetch versus optimistically outside the fetch. we're going to simply render that Pokemon. And what is that again? That's just the string of what it is that we want to add to the page. So rendering single Pokemon one more time is just going to give me that string back of all the divs. So I have a string now. Then I go ahead and add it to the container. And then the third thing I want to do is, now that the DOM's been updated and the database has been updated, I need to keep in sync all my local variables. So all three things are done in this post. Cool. So if we remember now, where we left off is, cool. I can click this edit and a drop-down form will appear so that I can grab the data here and click edit that Pokemon, and that should send a new fetch request back to the database. Specifically, what type of request? Post, put, patch, delete, or get? Patch, right? So let's do that. Am I listening for this? Oh, unbelievable. Am I listening for that, right? Unexpected token const. I added some, it was 87. Oh yeah, that's right. I left it off right here. Embarrassing. Cool. Great. What is happening to my event listener? You want to help me debug this together? All right, I had this working, and then I think I answered some questions during the break, and I like altered the code like a clown. So let's debug it together, because this is very useful practice. This happens all the time. A friend calls you over and goes, hey, this doesn't work. I don't know why. So let's think through it together, right? This is actually good practice. Great. So what is happening? What is the actual error? Edit form is not defined, right? So I must be calling edit form somewhere. Right here. Do you remember when I attempted to show you what that refactor would look like? That, hey, instead of all of this, I can have a form return this so that it looks just more readable? Great. And so that's exactly what's happening. I'm trying to invoke a function that does not exist. Cool? Great debugging, team. Great. Yeah? Now this should work. What the? Oh, yeah, that makes sense, because I have this happening here. Cool. So far so good, right? What we last left off is I need to grab the inputs of these. So let's take a look. Here is the form I'm actually appending to the page. All right, I lose you or no? All right, here's the form I'm actually appending to the page. So how would I get these? All right, and then this is the actual value. Whoop, whoop. Is that about right? Wouldn't it be nice, though, when I hit edit, that the information from here already comes in? Cool. How would I hard code the values of a form? I could set it to value right inside the input. Do I have access to the data that I need? All right, remember, it's on the container, right? So how would I get it? Do you guys want to do that, or do you want to just kind of move along? Okay, cool. So what is the value? Who wants to walk me through the process in determining what that might be? Let's do this. Can I console log, right, e.target? Right? So when I click the edit dataset action inside the Pokemon container, anything with this dataset, right, will give it to me. I'm just going to log the target. Let's see if we can find the data based on where we are inside this if statement. That makes the most sense. Cool. So, oh man, these are killing me. So when I click edit, what do I have here? Just the button. I have an ID here. I have an action of edit. That's all I have. Womp womp. What do I need though?
You have the data ID for the box, which matches the Pokemon. You can iterate through the Pokemon, match the IDs, and pull their information.
Yeah, I can do it a bunch of ways, right? The first thing is I can simply find the Pokemon data, right, in my all Pokemons array, right? Because do I have access to that? Do I have access to it here, the all Pokemons array? And is that data up to date? Yeah, it's reliable data. But what else can I do? If I'm right here and I want information about the Pokemon, is it anywhere else on the page? Let's do this, right? I want you to get out of this and into this. Let's see what the attributes are. Oops, is that the delete? Oh yeah, that was a delete. Embarrassing. Cool, it's just button, right? But what attributes do you think might give it to me if I was going higher or something? Parent, right? So like this is the button, right? And that's the button right here. Remember that little hacky thing I did? And that is I can just see $0. And this just gives me access to play with it here so I can practice traversing the DOM where I am. This is currently $0 is equivalent to e.target at the moment. Is there any confusion as to what I just said? $0 is e.target right now. Yeah? So, what is the parent element? Do I want to do this? Do I want to do this?
No.
I mean, I can,
Yeah.
right? And that'll give it to me. So remember, there are different ways to go about doing this. What is the preferred or easier way for you? Well, let's think about our code. Is there anywhere in my code where I'm already grabbing a particular Pokemon? Let's take a look. Do I do this already?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
I do? Powerful. Powerful. Cool. So because I do that, the first thing I'm going to do is not refactor. I'm going to make it work. Yeah? I'm going to make it work. So what do we have here? Can I just literally do this? Blugum? Blugum? Does this conflict? They are different scopes. So let's just simply log filtered Pokemon. Right? But what is the object I'm receiving here instead? Do I have the Pokemon object here? Do I have the Pokemon object? Because this is expecting a Pokemon object. Yeah? Louder. Come on, help me out here. You got it right!
Update e.target.dataset.id and return Pokemon.id.
Return Pokemon.id here.
That's just returning true if the ID matches.
Right, but remember how filter works, right? If this is true, it returns.
Right.
So let's just see what it is. We're all like on the right path here. Let's just see what's going on. Cool? So how would I actually access this? I would have to click this edit. Pokemon ID includes is not a function. Where now? Wouldn't it be better if I found the Pokemon object?
Yes.
Yes. Does anyone know how that works, or should I check the docs? MDN, or someone wants to walk me through it? MDN, cool. Ready? Find MDN, powerful. Cool. So it works on arrays, and what is it exactly? Very good. It returns the value of the first element of the array that satisfied the providing test. Cool? So I'm not a master, and I'm simply going to reference it here. Cool? This is like just a good practice, right? Like if you don't know how it works, just do it and then mock it, right? So what am I doing? On this array, I want to instead find, and then it's going to get the Pokemon, right, which is the element, and then it should return if will that work? What is Pokemon ID type of?
String.
And what is e.target.dataset type of?
Oh wait, no. That's the number. Once the unless it's the number. And the target is a string.
Cool. Oh, array.1 is undefined. Got me good. Is that the data? Cool. What can I do with this? Right, because now it's no longer like filtered Pokemon, right? I changed it to find. So can I just go bloop? Why do I want it above and not below where I'm about to use it? Constant let, do not hoist. Remember that? If this was a var, it could be at the bottom. It's fine. Dirtbag. So, cool. I have Pokemon data. How do I get, what is it that I want? So, Pokemon data. Blugop. 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 Yeah, I mean, this is just trash code from before, right? So, look, I'm trying to get to this, all right? Stop focusing on the wrong things here. Let's clean that up, right? Filtered Pokemon no longer exists because I changed the name of it. God, you guys are a tough crowd. Sweet. Is anyone confused why I use find, how I sort of figured that code out based on something else I've already seen on the page, based on what my needs are? The better question now that you've taken 2 seconds to think about it is, can you reproduce that on your own is the biggest question. All right, thumbs up if you were like, you know what, if I saw that again, I would have a good idea on how to solve it. Not a exact, I can do it, but it's like I can reason my way through it. All right, so again, I wanted to fill in this value. How do I have the value? I can simply find it in my all array because I have an ID. Cool? In the same way that in your Rails, you did like student.findBy ID, and then you passed in an interpolated ID, this find is doing the same thing, just so you can get that data. So now we can interpolate it into the form to create a better user experience, right? All the same skills we were using in Ruby applied directly to JavaScript. Now we just need to get better at writing callback functions. And how easy was it when I was like, great, I'm not great at using find, pulled up the docs, copy pasted it, and then mocked the example to get what it is that I wanted. You walk me through that. So, in here would be what? Actually, I forgot. Dot sprites, yeah. Dot like front, yeah. That's it. Trash. Cool. Let's find out. Bloop. Amazing. And no errors, which is probably why you're actually looking over here. Thanks, team. Right? So now that that user experience is all set, what can we do with that information? Now we have to actually do something, right? Does this do anything? It's just gonna submit the form. Trash. How can we stop that? Event.prevent default, right? Where though? Ooh. Remember, right? Does this edit form exist on my page on load? Does it make sense to add an event listener for the edit form on DOM content loaded? No. Where would this form exist after this edit is done? Well, we can always check the HTML. So, cool. Cool. So, I'm on the form. Right, and the form is a child of the Pokemon container. Can I have the Pokemon container listening for a submission of this? What would be the best thing to do? No, you don't want to do that. Where do we want to do this? The question is, I want to be listening for the submission of this form. Where do I want to create the event listener? On this form? On this edit form? I do. So the problem is, I cannot put it on DOM content loaded because the edit form doesn't exist. But if I add it inside Pokemon container, is that okay? The event to bubble. So let me ask you this. Why is everyone hesitant to add the listener of this submit on the container?
Because then it'll fire. It'll hit multiple requests every time you click on it. It'll listen multiple times. It'll keep listening.
The Pokemon container has an event listener, right? And that's the click.
It's going to create a bunch of event listeners every time you click.
Do I have to put it in this event listener though? No. Can I have another event listener on the container? listening for something else.
Yeah.
Who says no? That I'm only allowed to attach one event listener to an element? Who says yes, I can do that? Who thinks that that's the way to go? Who did not raise their hand can tell me why they wouldn't, or thoughts on why they're hesitant to adding an event listener on this? Sure. It would definitely fire both events, absolutely. But if this click hears it and none of these are triggered, doesn't matter. Does anyone else have any ideas? Okay, sure. Here's the question, right? The question is, where should I listen for this submit?
So inside the container, since it's already inside the container, I just call the parent element when I push the form inside, right?
What do you mean?
In the code, non-code.
Okay, who thinks I should put it inside here? This is what happens if I put it inside this click. If I put it inside here, and I do an event listener on what? What would I attach the .add event listener to?
No, it's the target. It's the edit
You
bar.
create a new.
I would be nesting event listeners, and that's the no-no, right? Because when I click, it will always add another event listener. So when I click this, right, just 2, 3, 4 times, 2, 3, 4 event listeners get attached. So your event listeners should never be nested.
Would you want to make a new container?
Sure. How can I do that?
Make like an edit Pokemon container in the initial edit HTML and call the event listener on that.
Can I, instead of how do I add the form? What's the code to adding the form? Right? Oh, God. Nobody made fun of me for that? Trash. Huh? Where is this?
In the event listener.
Right? This is where I add it. It's in the event listener. Okay. What you're suggesting is, can I just add it to a separate element, a separate edit comment container form, and then listen on that form? Here's what I'm suggesting. In the index.html, right, what do we have on page load? Where's that dumb dot 54? Oh, here it is. Trash. Can I just have a div that hangs out right here that says edit comment form? Will that mess with anything? I can have this right here, this Pokemon container, and then I can just put like a span or something right underneath. That will always exist on the page, but it won't actually display or render anything. So if I added the form to that, then I added the event listener to that can, in fact, separate the event listeners. Is that what you're suggesting? Right? And so I just wanted you to think through these problems because they're kind of tricky. Right? You know what you want to do, and all of a sudden you're like, wait, if I do that, then this kind of triggers and this kind of triggers. For right now, let's separate them and make them clean. Right? So how can I do that? Or can I? No, you can't, because these get added in the for each. They don't exist on the page at the time. That was a very good suggestion, though, right? Had y'all fooled. So let's keep thinking. It's because this lesson's part 2, right? I need to take the time to like work this through. Yeah.
We just make another event listener for the same container.
Can. For whatever reason, this class is very opposed to that. What seems to be the problem? How about this? I'm going to stop recording, and I'm going to give you guys 5 minutes to talk amongst yourselves. Where would you put the event listener? The question is this. I need to add an event listener to the submission of this new edit form that I just appended to the page that is not available to me in DOM content loaded. Where would I want to put the event listener, and how would I do it? Cool? Want to take 5 minutes?